What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Artem of Woe On To Me. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Alex, and hi to everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. I love your new album, Along the Meandering Ordeals, Reshape, the Pivot of Harmony. First and foremost, I know asking what the record name means is a very cliche question, but I feel like with every Woe On To Me album, a step into the waters of forgetfulness, among the light and skies, the voidness, etc. Like it seems like every Woe On To Me album is a statement and conveys a lot of imagery. Is there a specific reason why all the Woe On To Me albums sort of like have this messaging?
Well, I think the first album uh, we didn't have a plan to be like to have all the names of the album like the same, the longest, and all that stuff. But starting from that moment when the first album was released, we had an idea that it would be pretty cool if we will follow the idea of long names, which reflect everything that is, in the album, the topic of the album, and maybe the name itself would create a certain picture of what the listener will hear there.
Mm-hmm. Being that this new Woe On To Me album, Along the Meandering Ordeals, is this more or less a follow up to Among the Light and Skies, the Voidness Flashed, or was this, being that you released the EP Spiral Shaped Hope Wreck, that this is more or less kind of like a continuation to that, or is this album just a new beginning for Woe On To Me in general?
Well, yeah, it's not a continuation. Like if we're speaking about the lyrics, it's definitely not a continuation of the previous album. It's totally different topic, and like you said, it's kind of a new beginning for the band. But the EP, Spiral Shaped Hope Wreck, was a kind of I don't know, kind of uh, something for the people to have a look what kind of One to Me they are going to expect in the future. So the main track in this EP, it's going to appear on the album itself also. It's a part of the whole topic of that album. So yeah, it was a kind of uh, for people to sneak into what they're going to see next. Yeah.
Does the album ever start off with a preconceived vision of either what the lyrical meaning will be like or what the sound is going to be like, or is the songwriting process a very experimental and improvisational process?
Well, we started with the music at first. I think I wrote all the music, like the carcass of all the tracks, and then we started to work uh, with the rest of the band, with the singer and everybody else, and they started to add their ideas, and that's when we started to work with the lyrics, of course, and started to think about uh, the whole topic of the album and how it's gonna look. I mean, the artwork and everything, main ideas of everything.
Um, when it comes to the music that you're writing and the lyrics, because to me, an integral sound of Woe On To Me is the combination of your vocals as well as combined with Igor's vocals as well, because I know that this is Igor's first edition with the band to a degree. I
Yeah.
know that the EP he was featured on as well, but this is the first full length. So, did you and Igor need to kind of be like in the same headspace when it came to singing together, or being that you both have different vocal styles, that you kind of all had to be in your individual state of minds to record your parts?
Well, I think when Igor joined the band, that was also one of the reasons why I invited him to join the band because I felt like kind of a same vibe with him, in terms of musical ideas, in terms of lyrical ideas and vocals and everything. So uh, that's why I just came to him and invited when we needed a new vocalist. I just invited him, and when we started working on the album, I just felt it even more that we are really we're really thinking the same way. That was a really great experience, and I think that's why this album maybe I think it will be more interesting for most of the listeners than the previous albums. And basically, as you said, he appeared on the EP first, but basically we recorded the album and the EP at the same time. The main idea was to record the album itself, but then we thought about the situation in general that was like, all the pandemic stuff. We didn't have like a possibility to play the shows, tour, and we thought that it's not the right time probably to release the whole album, and we're gonna wait until we could promote the album in a proper way with the shows and with the live shows. And that's why we thought that meanwhile we are going to release an EP. And that's why we just picked one song from the album, added a couple of covers, which we also recorded during the recording session of the album. And we decided that we are going to show the EP first to the people, and then we're going to release the album when it will be a proper time for that.
When it comes to the lyricism, though, being that you both are singing together, and do you almost have to like take notes with each other, or maybe like write the lyrics together to kind of bring consistency to the song in a way, or do you prefer to write kind of like you do your thing and he does his, and then you meet later to see where it intersects?
Well, I think it's always better to work together in the situations when there are two vocalists, and that was the way that we decided to do, because Igor wrote all the lyrics for this album, but then we just sat down together with him and just were like putting out the ideas, which phrase is better for the crawl vocals, or which one is better for the clean vocals, and where to put it, and all this stuff. Then we started to work together on all that.
And I've always found it so fascinating when bands, especially in metal, have multiple vocalists, because it seems like it's in multiple genres. Like Lacuna Coil has two vocalists, We Came as Romans has two vocalists, The Butcher Babies has two vocalists. So it always was fascinating to see how like the two vocalists, it almost seems like there has to be almost kind of an extra layer of chemistry that's needed, because you are providing the lyrics and the messaging and the sound together.
Yeah, I really agree with that, because I think as a listener, when I listen to some band which has like a couple of vocals or even three different vocals, it's always like kind of three levels, three layers of energy. Every vocal is a different energy and like a different world that you can find yourself in. That's why it's always interesting. It's always more energetic. And I think it's more interesting live, of course, because you can concentrate on multiple things in the band, not only on the main guy, but also like on other musicians. And it's really cool, I think.
For you, when it comes to the musical aspects of it, do you prefer to write when you like? Do you feel that isolation is more or less the greatest source of creativity in a way, or is it more organic when you're all in the company of each other when pitching ideas?
Well, for me personally, I think that isolation works better. At least at the beginning, at the very beginning, when I start to, with a couple of riffs, start to build the composition, the song. I prefer to, just to build it myself, and then to show it to other members of the band, to find out what they say about it, like the whole song, and then maybe they will. Would like to change any places, riffs. Then we're gonna like make arranges, rearrange it. But in the very beginning, of course, for me, it's better to work, totally alone.
Of course. Do you want the lyricism to be open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe convey the listener, like maybe get the listener just as engaged with the meaning as the sound itself. Because again, these titles really do provoke a lot of thought. I don't think it's just like a title for the sake of having a title.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, I think because when I always think about these things like that, like people listening or people watching something, it's always great when a person who watches or who listens to something, he starts to think. And it's always great when his thoughts are building some really cool pictures. Even like these names of the songs, they give a chance to every listener to build something for himself. Then, of course, he can like to read the lyrics, to see the artwork. But we are trying to do it in a way that even with the art, even when you combine everything like lyrics, artwork, names of the songs, and the title of the album, and everything together, you still have the space for your own thoughts, for your own vision. And it's always great.
Absolutely. Why do you feel that maybe like the style that Woe Onto Me plays, and I don't, not to pigeonhole by any means, but the sort of like doom style of music, why do you feel that this is the best style to sort of express the sides that we're seeing in you on here?
Um, well, it's hard to say because personally I play in different bands,
Of
so I play
course.
different kinds of music. Yeah, and I don't think that doom metal is the only way to express all these feelings and emotions, but I think in doom metal, the the possibility, the melodies, and the combinations of brutal style and melodic style, like soft style of music, gives uh, a place to it, more kind of emotions, to express, and maybe to build more emotional topic, more emotional picture of all this. That's why maybe it's easier, but I'm not sure because even in technical death metal, in brutal death metal, some bands are still do complex albums with complex lyrics and still looks great. But of course, death metal like should be pretty brutal in
Of
any
course.
way. Yeah, so they are like the topics of the album and everything. It should be still brutal. And in doom metal, you can combine the brutalism with some emotions and soft stuff and psychological stuff, maybe philosophical. Yeah,
How would you, in a way, because like when it comes to Doom, it's been used now so much, like, but Yob doesn't sound anything like Catatonia, and that doesn't sound anything like Candlemass. So like, and
yeah.
Candlemass has a lot of differences between like a band like Typo Negative, which has been considered Doom in a way. So does Doom, aside from having 27-minute long songs, does Doom have to have like a specific sound, you would say, that really characterizes it in that style?
Yeah, probably. The probably it has something that every band that you just named, they have something in common, of course. But there are so many types of like doom metals, so many subgenres of doom metal that you can go in directly opposite ways and still be called doom. So that's why. But I think that all these bands, of course, have something in common, like probably something from Black Sabbath.
Of course. I mean, like a lot of people have said, well, it's the very melancholy nature behind it. I'm like, yeah, but emo emo punk music has plenty of melancholy nature behind it too. I'm not gonna call My Chemical Romance doom metal. So like,
Yeah, exactly.
so I've always found that to be kind of like an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Now, being such a prolific artist, I do call you kind of like a doom metal Mike Patton in a way because of all the different projects you've been involved in between Deathbringer and Amentia and Disloyal and so many other fantastic bands. Is there a usual method behind the madness that applies to every project that you've been involved in, or does every project call for its own approach and its own state of mind?
Yeah, I think that every project, every band, it's totally different approach. It's totally different atmosphere. And when I compose something like for Deathbringer or for Disloyal or for One to Me, I need to put myself in a certain state of mind, of course, and it's sometimes it's not easy because sometimes I can come up with a riff that fits more to the other band, and I'm thinking, no, it shouldn't be here. I should better put it there. But usually it works. Maybe it's just a matter of time to get used to it and to work like on different kinds of music, and then it becomes a little bit more easier. Like you're just concentrating on what you have to do, what you need to do. You just close yourself in a certain type of emotional state and you just work it out.
And you led me perfectly into the next question, actually, because in order to get inspired, that creative energy to either write the music or write lyrics or any part of your songwriting, do you seek out inspiration? Is it something that you kind of look for, or does inspiration just strike out of the blue for you?
Uh, it's not easy to answer that question because I think it just I seek for the inspiration, of course, but sometimes it appears in a very strange way. I may find inspiration in certain things that are not like typically connected with the topic I'm looking for, like something completely different, like books, or certain films. I can find inspiration, for example, for a completely different type of music or different topic. It's the same, like you can find inspiration in a horror movie, you can find inspiration in science fiction or anything, but then you write an album, like philosophical or psychological, some topic which is not connected, of course, with science fiction, horror, or anything. But you can still drive the inspiration from that. And it's the same with music. You can listen to even to like a classical music, or you can listen to a pop music and find inspiration in both of them.
There's so much there's one thing that Google can provide, and that is life, because life has the greatest inspiration that it could possibly give you.
Yeah.
Even if you sit in a white room or any room with nothing in it, it's just you in a realm of isolation. The madness that's going to come from that is going to create inspiration. Or like I feel like inspiration is like air or water. It is one of those things that are everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, sometimes loneliness gives you a biggest inspiration ever. You just sit alone and you started to think and you just come up with the thoughts that you have never think about when you were with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd imagine too, like depending on what you are singing or writing about, depending on what initially sparked an idea, does it resonate with you differently, depending on what the song could be about or how it was written?
Oh, well, can you say it in other words? Because
Yeah,
I'm not sure that I understood
yeah.
it correctly.
If you write a song that was, let's say, inspired by like film or literature, versus a song that was inspired by like a personal experience that you've had, does it resonate with you differently when you are writing that song, or does it feel differently when you're listening to it?
I don't think so because for me, even writing a song inspired by some movie or inspired by some book, I still put a lot of emotions and feelings that everything that I feel in my personal life. So I put uh, a lot of emotions and thoughts that are inside me. That's why these songs are very dear to me. Just the same way, like songs that I wrote, for example, that are totally connected with some personal events or emotions.
And being that you also express yourself through multiple instruments, because I know that like in Disloyal you play bass and guitar, but like in Deathbringer you play mainly guitar, but you know you're the vocalist and Woe On to Me. Does a different instrument express maybe a different side of you?
Uh, yeah, probably, but probably I don't feel that in that way anymore because when I compose something, I just see the track in its entirety. Even when I compose guitars, I already hear the bass, I already hear the drums inside my head. I already like hear the voices. Well, maybe of course without lyrics, but I still hear like kind of what vocals would I like to hear there. And it's the same when I compose, for example, the bass lines. I also like hear the guitars, how it's working with the guitars, how it's working with the drums. So it's like kind of multiple musical. Uh, I don't know how to say it, like a kind of imagination
Definitely.
working.
How do you know when you're finished with a song?
Well,
How do you know when you're finished with a song?
uh, sometimes you don't know that. Sometimes even when it's recorded, I still think maybe it's not finished yet. Maybe they put something inside it, but it's always challenging because when you think it's finished and we're starting recording the album, and then you come up with some more ideas, and you think, is it worth putting it in or worth to leave it for the next album, for the next release, for that even for the other band. Still, I sometimes I have such an amount of ideas that I'm not able to say that this is finished or this is not finished. But for me, it's always better when you have the first thought that maybe the song is ready, then you need to record it and record it as fast as possible, not to try to overthink about the song or overthink about the lyrics and put something that is not supposed to be there.
I've asked this question to just about every artist I've interviewed, and I think you might have answered it the best. So excellent job.
Thanks.
I have one more question for you. You know, it feels interesting to cross another country off the list, interviewing a band that originated in Belarus. Did you guys originate in Minsk, or were you?
No,
Okay,
no, we are from Grodno. It's very close to the border with Poland and border with Lithuania. So
okay,
it's basically it's on the border.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, what the sort of because I've interviewed Infected Rain from Chisinau, Moldova. You know, interviewing you know bands from Ukraine and interviewing bands from all over the world, from Botswana and Africa. But I'm wondering if there is a sort of metal scene to where Belarus, if there is a metal scene in Belarus that you're affiliated with, or were you always intended to go outside into Poland or Lithuania to sort of spread the name?
Well, I think that Belarus has some really interesting bands and has a pretty cool and pretty strong metal scene. But you said the right thing that I was always oriented, like I was always looking at the west side, like Europe, United States, and everything like that. Because now, for me, the mentality of like musical mentality of people in Russia and Eastern European countries are a little bit different, and sometimes I'm closer to the bands and to the like musical thinking, which is uh, on the Western side. But I still think that there are a lot of really cool bands, but sometimes they just don't have the possibility to show themselves to the world. They don't have maybe the knowledge to just go further. They concentrate on like being popular or playing some shows and tours inside their country or inside the CIS countries because they are like connected together, but they don't have the knowledge and possibility, don't have the language uh, to go outside, to go to the West, to promote themselves there. And sometimes it's difficult. And also the political situation has biggest influence, I think.
I won't
It's not easy.
yeah, I won't mention his name because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But
Yeah, yeah.
I know that Minsk could sometimes be a difficult city to get out of for not just bands, but for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. It's true, yeah.
Yeah, but I heard like I feel like Minsk, any band that started in like a big city, and I know you didn't start in Minsk, but like if any city, whether it be Warsaw, Minsk, or New York City, if the band starts in a big city, it kind of makes it harder for them to get out of the city because there's already a scene there. If your band started in the suburbs in the middle of nowhere, you kind of don't have a choice but to travel somewhere to play a gig. Whereas in the city, there's always like multiple places to play.
Oh, I never thought about it like that, but there's really a lot of truth in these words. It's probably many bands really think like that. They concentrate on their own city, and just like you said, the scene is pretty big. They can play a lot of shows there. Just they can play in different clubs in different venues, and they like play once a week, twice a week, and they think that it's pretty enough for them. There's no need to invest a lot of money and to invest a lot of um, everything, like to go outside of their own limits.
Yeah.
And maybe it's true, and maybe it's easier for the bands from the smaller cities because just in the very beginning they already need to invest something to go to play somewhere, to play a show, to go somewhere, to make just a small tour. It's always an investment, and it's always like a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. Like yeah. So I think it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Absolutely. People wonder why so many like bands in Sweden or Norway or Finland got big. It's like, well, because they couldn't play gigs in their forests and tundras up in the north. They had to drive to other places to play their shit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. I think it's really yeah. It's really interesting because still there are many bands, of course, from the big cities, from the capitals of different countries, but they have a kind of a different mentality, or at least one of the musicians that is in that band has a different mentality, and this musician wants to go further, to get bigger, and always thinks bigger. And if this musician is the leader of the band, then he just pulls them with him or find other people with whom he can work, and these people just think the same way as he does, and that's when the band goes bigger and goes somewhere.
Absolutely. I'm waiting for one band to form in Antarctica though, and see how that takes them. One day. That's the
Yeah, that would be cool.
yep. Your bandmates would all be penguins. And they already look like they're wearing corpse paint, so it might fit. But
Yeah.
so before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such an awesome conversation. Is there just anything else with Woe On to Me that you would like to promote for the release of Along the Meandering Ordeals, Reshape the Pivot of Harmony? Is there a chance maybe you could bring Woe On to Me to the States one day? We really want to have you here.
No, I mean, I would love to. I would love to go to the States, to all the corners of the earth and play there. It's always like for me, it's one of the main things in the band, like playing live, of course. Not only recording, but playing live. Playing live is amazing. Touring is amazing, and of course, I would like to visit the United States for sure. Maybe someday it will happen. I mean, I'm even sure that someday it will happen.
Never say
You
never.
never know when.
Yeah, yeah,
We're gonna try. For now, we're trying to like to book some shows, book some festivals to promote our new album. Probably there will be some shows, but it will be most likely will be in the autumn, I think in the fall of 2023, not earlier, because I'm engaged also in a lot of like other bands and other stuff to do. I'm also booking some tours, working with the bands, going as a tour manager, and it really takes a lot of time. So probably autumn is the earliest time we're gonna appear live with the new program.
Tour managing. So if you're not touring with Woe On To Me, you'll tour with another band in the U.S. and odds are you'll be my point of contact to interview that band. So,
Yeah, sure, it would be awesome.
but thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Woe On To Me along the Meandering Ordeals, Reshape the Pivot of Harmony. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much, Alex.